All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Planning Commission of the City of Moreno Valley. I now call this meeting to order on December 22nd, 2022 at exactly 6 p.m. May we have a roll call?
Commissioner Ray Baker,
Here.
Commissioner Joanne Steffen,
Present.
Commissioner Omar Kobian,
Present.
Commissioner Jeff Sims,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Matthew Chen,
Here.
Chairperson Alvin Dejanay.
Here. Commissioner Baker will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Hand over heart. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are now going to move to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion and a second?
Motion.
I'll second.
That's a motion by Commissioner Chan and a second by Commissioner Baker. Have a vote. And the motion carries. All right, the next item on the agenda is the public comments procedure. Before we hear the public comments this evening, I ask and encourage everyone participating to keep their comments respectful toward others, especially toward the individual speaking. I embrace and support the First Amendment right to free speech, including everyone's right to speak at this meeting and share his or her views about issues concerning our city. We can accomplish this more as a city and as private citizens by being civil and respectful towards one another in this meeting. During the public comment period for each item, as well as during the public comment period for items not on the agenda, each member of the public who has signed up to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak. Any person wishing to address the commission on any other matter, either under the public comment section of the agenda or scheduled items or public hearing, must fill out a request to speak form available at the door. The completed form must be submitted to the secretary prior to the agenda item being called by the chairperson. In speaking to the commission, members of the public may be limited to 3 minutes per person, except for the applicant for entitlements. The commission may establish an overall time limit for comments on a particular agenda item. Members of the public must direct their questions to the chairperson of the commission and not to other members of the commission, the applicant, the staff, or the audience. Do we have any public comments? Any speakers?
No, sir.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent calendar. We have no items at this time. Moving right along, the next item on the agenda is approval of the non-public hearing items, and we don't have any items there either. All right, so we're going to move right into the next item, which is the public hearing items, which is number 1. The item was continued from October 22nd, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. The applicant is requesting approval of a plot plan for an automobile parking lot on a 9.14 acres in Moreno Valley Industrial Area Plan, Clear Zone District Specific Plan 208. Do we have a staff report?
Chair, if I may, real quick, apologize for interrupting.
Sure.
It's come to my attention that Commissioner Chen has a potential conflict of interest and a perceived conflict of interest in that his employer submitted a comment letter to the Planning Commission on the proposed project before you. Accordingly, Commissioner Chen, I would advise that due to the potential conflict and or perceived conflict of interest, to avoid jeopardizing any Planning Commission action due to due process, I would advise you to recuse yourself and to leave the dais. And again, I'd just like to note that conflict of interest are not a bad thing. Commissioners and legislative body members tend to have conflicts of interest due to the fact they're out and active members in the community. But just due to the potential for the perceived conflict of interest, I think it would be best for the planning commission if you recuse yourself.
Okay, thank you. What do I do? If it pleases the court.
That's right.
Done that before.
All the way out the door. Okay, so we'll wait for Sean to come back. All right, now we're still at the staff report here. Can we have a staff report?
Thank you. The presentation this evening will be made by Senior Planner Julia Dakota.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. I'm Julia Dakota, Senior Planner, and the project before you this evening is a plot plan approval for an automobile parking lot. The location is on the east side of Heacock Street, north of the Paris Valley Storm Drain. It's in the specific plan 208. The surrounding land uses are also to the north of the site are all within the city of Moreno Valley. To the west is a March Air Reserve base, and to the east is within the city, mostly built out industrial. The 9-acre site, it's a 9.6-acre site. The project is in the clear zone designation of the specific plan 208 CZ. There are minimal uses that can be conducted within the clear zone designation, those being streets, agriculture, and utilities. The city-specific plan 208 clear zone also allows for automobile parking. In June of 2020, staff reached out to surrounding agencies, including the Airport Land Use Commission, ALUC, and at the time, although submitted to ALUC, no ALUC review was initiated between the applicant and ALUC. The proposed parking lot will be designed consistent with city standards that includes parking lot fingers, landscaping areas, and tubular steel fencing. Landscaping is required in the interior of the project as well as the exterior of the project along Heacock Street with the tubular steel fencing. There will be no trees nor any site structures on the property, no block walls. None of that can be on the property because of its in the clear zone that is prohibited. The staff has included a minor change to condition of approval 102, which was provided for you this evening. It's on the timing of one of the conditions. Staff received several comment letters were provided in the document upload in the system. So those were out for public record. However, we received 3 additional ones that were provided to you this evening. The project as proposed is a permitted use and was properly noticed for the 20-day review period as required by CEQA, as well as for the public hearing. At this time, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the Resolution 2022-41 with the initial study and mitigated negative declaration and approved plot plan Pen 21-0102 with the conditions of approval. This concludes staff's presentation, and myself and the applicant are here to answer any questions for you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
I have one. So this is obviously right in either the takeoff or I don't know whichever the wind blows it's right at the end or the beginning of the roadway. So wouldn't this project, I don't know what the whole process is with the Airport Land Use Commission, but is there, how does that work? I mean, if a project is within a certain, I would imagine it's like a bullseye, the closer you are, the more stringent would be the requirement that there would be necessity for ALEX to look at it. So I guess I wouldn't understand how was that something right across the fence from the roadway not looked at by the ALEX?
So city staff did send out an agency request back in June of 2021. The applicant actually did attempt to make submittal to ALUC. But ultimately, ALUC determined that the city of Moreno Valley would retain jurisdiction over the review of the compatibility of this project.
And did they give something in writing that's
We have numerous emails to that effect from June through August of 21.
And then the other question I have is if you could put the actual parking lot up there. I mean, back in the day when I actually used to use a red pencil and design stuff, I bet you I could get probably 3 or 4 times the amount of parking spaces on that. So it's curious. I'm curious. And I wouldn't have made them 30 feet deep. So is this proposed only for automobiles? Because the way, as I read the staff report, it says it's for automobiles, not trucks, not cargo bins or any other thing. And to follow up with that, what would happen is if the property became not used as a regular automobile parking lot and there was a transitional use where they started putting truck traffic and or trucks or the I forgot the trailers, stored those on there. What mechanism is this? Is this a CUP?
No, this is just a plot plan.
So what would happen?
So in terms of why the applicant designed the project in the manner that they did, we will have to leave that to them to respond to you. They did have the opportunity and they did actually study for a larger parking field than what is shown on the site plan that's presented to you this evening as part of the environmental review. In terms of if they were to proceed to utilize the property for a use that is not permitted within the CZ zone, ultimately, we would pursue action through code enforcement to require them to stop that use in the same manner that we do for other other uses that are traditionally permitted, or other properties in the city that are being used for unpermitted uses. We have that occur pretty regularly.
Maybe the applicant will explain, but I just don't see why would you spend all the money to grade and pave 9 acres and only put that many parking lots? It makes no sense unless there's some other use for the property, intended use. Anyhow, I guess that's a question of the applicant if they want to explain that. So.
Any other commissioner questions of staff? The Airport Land Use Commission, you're saying that back in June of 2021, they declined to submit a report?
In June of 21, they declined to accept an application from the applicant and referred the project to the city for our determination instead. And the city does have the authority to do so.
I see. Okay. Questions? Any other commissioner questions? Okay, would the applicant like to speak at this time?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Frank Coyle. I'm with Cask Engineering and Consulting. I am here with Marty Klosser and David Scheib, who is with Lawrence Family Trust, the applicant. We prepared the site plan that is before you, as well as the initial study. I'd like to note that the site plan is designed to meet city conditions, city standards. And with respect to the initial study, as staff indicated earlier, an initial study was prepared. It was circulated for public review, 20-day review period. Comments or mitigation measures have been incorporated into the document that you have before you. One comment I would like to note at this time, during the review period, we did receive comment letters. Since that time, we've received a total of 16 comment letters. We received, as staff indicated, 3 earlier this afternoon. Thus, at this time, I would like to retract our response to comments that we submitted on, I believe it was December 15th. And I'd like to follow up with the submittal of response to comments dated December 22nd. These include all the letters that we have been received at this time. So do I turn this, do I give this to you, Sean? In response to your question regarding the parking lot, originally when this project was proposed, the applicant was looking at potentially doing semi-trucks. Obviously, semi-trucks require a larger stall. However, working with staff with the design of the project, it was quite some time ago that the project was modified to only include parking for automobile cars, and thus the project includes up to 194 parking stalls. And if you have any questions, we're more than happy to answer them for you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant?
I was just wondering, who's going to utilize those parking stalls if they're not going to be for trucks?
The applicant is proposing this project to assist with the overflow of vehicles that are located within the city. According to the applicant, there is a need to assist with providing parking for cars within the city.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a question. So, so the paper, so I guess I don't understand about what was just happened about the
Commissioner
papers.
Sims, before we
Yeah.
proceed with that, I understand that the applicant team has a further presentation this evening.
Yes, we do. We have a presentation.
Yeah, I think it would be behoove us to go
Okay.
through the hearing and then move to questions. That would be my recommendation to the commission. That way we can
Yeah.
get through their full presentation.
What I'll do is I'll turn it over to Mr. Clauser so he can provide your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners and Chairman. My name is Marty Clauser. I'm representing the Lawrence Family Trust. I do have a PowerPoint. It's here. Okay, first of all, I would like to basically start out by saying this is kind of a common sense approach to this project as it pertains to some of the objections that we reviewed, that you had received from some of the opponents to the project. So we just wanted to take a few minutes and kind of address some of those, and I'm sure we're going to be hearing from some of the opponents shortly. So as was previously stated, this project consists of roughly 9 acres in the clear zone, and specifically specific plan 208, which was developed for the purpose of increasing flexibility and accommodating economic development opportunities and support uses. The clear zone is compatible for automobile parking, as was previously stated. This is a diagram that kind of shows some of the main opponents to the project and what some of their principal objections to the project were. Those related to safety hazards. We want to point out that there already exists extensive commercial uses within the clear zone, the same exact clear zone that the property is located in. These uses have been allowed to basically exist and intensify and expand for at least the last 20 years or more. There also is extensive residential, commercial, and parking uses within the clear zone or a similar size zone around other military bases that presumably those uses are allowed to exist and they do not pose any hazard to risk to safety. Therefore, it is our assertion that the project does not pose safety hazards, and I have some additional slides on that. Additionally, there was comments made regarding noise. Some of the opponents mentioned noise as an issue. They also mentioned auto parking and an easement that that the base has on the property, which I'm also going to address. But I would like to just emphasize that parking is not explicitly prohibited by the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan policy documents, which I'm going to cover shortly. Also, there was some issue regarding some economic concerns or concerns that somehow this parking lot would suppress economic development or in some way prohibit the base from operating safely. I'm going to show in this presentation that that would not occur. This particular table basically talks about the issue relating to occupancy and the assemblages of people. I would like to state again that the clear zone already, the current uses within the clear zone already promote occupancy and assemblages of people. Things such as auto parking, truck parking, trailer parking, storage. There's residential uses occurring within the clear zone. There's an auto dismantling facility, and there's also industrial uses that are currently occurring within the clear zone. Basically, the clear zone does also allow roads, which, as we know, roads are for vehicles, and vehicles have occupants. So there is occupancy within the vehicles that are on the roads. Those occupants carry GPS devices and cellular devices, as some of the opponents have objected to, that they say might or might not exist within a parking lot. So we believe that the parking lot would be consistent with those uses. There's actually a planned multi-jurisdictional expansion and extension of Heacock Street to Harley Knox Boulevard, which will dramatically increase the circulation of traffic on Heacock Street adjacent to the property and also in the clear zone. So we believe that makes this parking lot even more compatible with the Heacock Street extension. Also, per the March Joint Powers Authority and March Air Reserve Base, allowable uses in the clear zone include agriculture. Well, agriculture requires an assemblage of people to service the crops. So I believe that's also an assemblage and occupancy that occurs. So therefore, for these reasons, which we'll get into in a little bit more detail, we do not believe that they pose a risk as far as occupancy. So first, safety hazards. This diagram shows you essentially the clear zone and the proximity of the property. We have identified 32 parcels in the clear zone, 18 parcels, including the subject, which is outlined, the subject outlined in orange. 18 parcels, including the subject, are privately owned, and the remaining parcels are government owned. You can see the red boundary, that's the clear zone boundary, and these are these are approximate, obviously. The subject lot, the government lots are in a gray bubble, and the privately owned parcels are in the blue bubble. This basically is a chart that shows you the an actual breakdown of the parcels. The top 7 parcels are the ones which have obvious occupancy. The one is government owned, and the remaining 6 are privately owned. You can see what activity is occurring on those 7 parcels with their parcel number, who the owner of the parcel is, what the land use code is per the title company, and also if there's any other annotations like residence or parking, it's also annotated there as well. So you'll see that even on the government-owned property, there's a personal residence, there's a barn, there's other commercial kinds of activity and parking going on the parcel. When we were there recently, just within the last couple of weeks, we were greeted by 4 dogs, and there was an individual there that refused to talk to us. But you can see the other activities, and each one of those numbers correlates to the map number. The next section is all privately owned properties, including the subject. There's no visible occupancy. We can't tell from just a visual observance if there's any occupancy going on, but you can see those properties as well. And then the remaining are government properties. Taking a closer look at those 7 properties on the map, again, you can see that 6 are privately owned, 1 government owned. Again, the uses that are occurring and the assemblages of people include residential, parking, storage, commercial, industrial. There's a double wide trailer. There's a single family home. There's a barn, structures, truck and auto parking lots, trailer parking, lot storage yard, scrap yard, fencing, and more. So you can see there's considerable amount of activity going on in the clear zone. On this table, this breaks down the 7 parcels where the activity is most visible, and shows also we did a little research on these 7, and that we have a table of the easements. So you can see that even the government-owned property, which is the one on the top, there are avigation easements on these properties for the most part. On 2 of the properties, we found no navigation easements. On the remaining ones, we did. And on 4 of those, we found an easement that's either exactly or similar to the easement that's on the subject property. So there are avigation easements present, and there's still, obviously, the activity is present within those parcels. This just gives you an aerial view and a breakdown of the easements. So you can see the 2 parcels with the red star have no recorded avigation easement. 4 parcels with the green star have a same or similar avigation easement as the subject. And I would like to point out parcel number 29, this parcel has an additional avigation easement and release dated from 2005 that was from the owner, the grantor, and accepted by March Air Reserve Base on behalf of the March Inland Port Airport Authority and the City of Paris in order to authorize the owner's development of the property. That's where the auto dismantling property is. And you'll also notice that its proximity to the runway is actually even closer than the subject property. This is an aerial of parcel 7 with the blue star. This parcel is owned by the U.S. government, includes a personal residence, a double wide barn, or a double wide trailer, barn, house, and parking lot. Those images were taken on December 5th. These are sort of present day pictures of present day uses that are occurring in the clear zone. So you can see it's a rather extensive uses that are occurring in the clear zone. These uses, I'm going to show a series of slides here over the past 20 years, and you'll see that these uses have been allowed to exist and basically propagate and intensify over that period of time. So that picture on the top right is not, I wouldn't say that's contemporary. That was an aerial from Google. So that is not necessarily contemporary, but it does show that for a significant period of time, there's been activity. The middle picture on the top is contemporary, and the other 2 are Google aerials. This just shows you the business license activity. So parcel number 8, which is in the, it sort of gets clipped by the clear zone. That parcel has an active business license, but no avigation easement. That was a business license with the City of Paris, which we received through a public records request. Parcel number 29 is the one that I mentioned that has the avigation easement recorded in 2005, which is allowing the business of the auto dismantling business. And then there are the 5 parcels that do not have any record of a certificate of occupancy or a business license. So recently, the applicant met with the March Joint Powers Authority and the base in an attempt to discuss the application and clarify the situation. We pointed out this extensive commercial and residential activity to the parties present. And basically the response was that the base officials we're taking some sort of enforcement action against these parties. Obviously, if somebody has a navigation easement and a business license that allows them to operate a auto dismantling business, they can't take any enforcement action against them. So that's neither here nor there. But what I'd like to show you is a series of images from as far back as 2002 to present day, which shows that the activity in the clear zone has been allowed to exist, expand, and intensify for more than 20 years. So this was taken in 2002. The top left is the personal residence, the double wide trailer, parking structures, trailers. Again, this is a government-owned parcel. And then again, in kind of the center top of the clear zone, there's some activity present there. This is from 2005. You can see the same previous activity, but things have obviously intensified. So again, 17 years in the making there. This is from 2011, just a continuation of activity. 2016, an even greater continuation of activity. The one in the center is the one with the navigation easement and the permit for the auto dismantling. So 2019, 2021, and the clear zone today. So you can kind of see, you know generally where the subject property is. So like the property is located to the west of the runway. The subject property is not in the direct flight path of the runway. Located just to on the left side of that image, just outside the red line, is a large AAA parking lot. It's in perfect alignment with the runway, and literally just separates a few feet from the boundary of the clear zone, just on the other side. You can see the multi-jurisdictional extension of planned Heacock Street to Harley Knox. Again, there's a tremendous amount of traffic that comes in from Cactus up Heacock, and once that road goes in, that extension, it's very likely that much of that traffic, if not all of that traffic, will basically be going through Heacock and Harley Knox. So I think what this series of slides represents is the fact that the clear zone itself is not sacrosanct. There's been activity in the clear zone, at least for the last 20 years. And I would venture to say it's been even longer than that. And I would say they've been allowed to expand and propagate. And in that period of time, I mean, the opponents have not presented any evidence to the fact that those uses have created any hazard or safety or prohibited the base from operating or contributing to the economy. So I believe that it's our opinion, our assertion that the parking lot will basically be of similar economic value to the city and to the region. These are all images taken from December 5th, and this is just a small sample of the images that we took. But again, you can see all of the activity occurring is extensive, and this is all happening within the same clear zone as the subject property. And in many cases, these activities and these properties are even closer to the runway than the subject property. This was also taken in the clear zone. You can see a little motorhome on the right side. We suspect that was the security guard that greeted us at the corner of the property. This is a considerable amount of trucks, trailers. We saw a liquid container there, that you see on the freeways. Plenty of small trucks, cars, equipment, scrap laying all over the place. So again, all within the clear zone. And then a lot of this activity is occurring closer than the subject property. So we wanted it happening at other sites, other military bases, an activity that's occurring in clear zones or in zones that are 3,000 by 3,000 feet, which seems to be the military's standard for clear zones. This is March. This is Joint Air Base Hickam in Honolulu, Hawaii. They share the runways with the Daniel Inouye International Airport. There's multiple runways and presumably multiple clear zones. Again, the clear zone is defined as 3,000 by 3,000. That's a government standard. And so if you use that same area, the end of the runways, you can tell in that top right image at Hickam Air Force Base, which, there's significant activity here. There's 60 structures with parking, 10 additional parking lots. There's a Hertz car rental business. There's a hotel. There's restaurants. There's privately owned properties and businesses, and significant traffic, all within that, clear zone. You can also see in that top right image, you can barely make it out, but there's another runway adjacent to those two, just to the left, which sort of is pointed more towards where the water is. There's another huge parking lot right there, and that would all be within the clear zone of. It's in the clear zone of these runways, but it would be in the clear zone of that runway as well. This kind of gives you an idea of where the proximity of the subject property would be in that particular zone, in that clear zone, 3,000 by 3,000 foot zone. So you can see it's basically in an area that's already would be surrounded by other activities. This is North Island Naval Air Station in Coronado. All of us are familiar with. This is at the end of the runway on the north end. The famous Coronado Hotel is not far from this location. But basically at the end of the beach, if you will, the public beach is a community of obviously very expensive homes. There's 61 private luxury homes valued from 3 to 15 million in here. The one on the corner is estimated value of 9 million per Zillow. So you can take that for what you will. There's also a golf course. There's a public park. There's a public dog beach where people go. And I live in San Diego, and this is where I take my dogs, so I'm very familiar with it. Actually, probably closest to the runway, and even closer, about as close as where that home is, and the top left of where the homes are, is a little kids playground. And the park itself is, this is the park at the end of the street, which is actually an entrance to the base. The park itself is designated as a city park for children's youth sports field, children's youth activity. And you can also rent it out for events of up to 100 people. And every weekend you go there and there's parking here, and people are mingling around and walking their dogs. And in this particular image, which was taken a couple years ago because it was a Google image, you can see there's a soccer match going on. There's probably about 25 people involved in a soccer match. So considerable assemblage of people, and then presumably these homes and this activity does not inhibit the base in any way. It doesn't prevent the base from operating, and isn't considered enough of a hazard or safety hazard to anyone to, prevent any kind of occupation in this area. The image to the left is the actual clear zone. When you find, when you go on the website, it's sometimes these things are difficult to find, but I did actually find the clear zone. It's about the same dimension, although it's tapered a little bit at the runway side, but then it expands out and basically covers the same area that I had covered with my pen. And again, you can see the proximity of the subject property, where it would be within that. So it's portions of the subject property are about the same distance as the playground is from the runway. The bottom image is a series of images from their website that shows the aircraft that fly in and out of, fighters, Learjets, helicopters, other types of aircraft that fly in and out of Naval Air Station. This is California Air National Guard Joint Base in Fresno, also site of the Fresno Yosemite International Airport. So it's again public-private, this is where they fly F-15 Eagles. There's 3,000 by 3,000 foot, clear zone. There's multiple zones on this end because you've got multiple runways, and you can see that on the call it left side in this image, the left side of the runways, there are significant number of businesses there, auto repairs, service shops, automotive, et cetera, and related parking. And then to the south of the runway and within the clear zone of both runways is an elementary school. It's actually would be in the little yellow box is where the subject property would be in that particular diagram. And you can see that the elementary school is quite close to the end of the runway and actually in direct line, to some degree. So that just gives you an indication that of the type of uses that are occurring, say in this particular location. There's also an equestrian and storage and public parks, in addition to all the homes. So in terms of our rebuttal to the opponents as far as the safety hazards and the occupancy and assemblage of people is based on the current conditions in the March Air Reserve Base clear zone and the types of activities that have been going on there for the last 20 years and continue and have propagated, and the kinds of activities that go on adjacent to the runways, and in many cases much closer to the runway than the subject property is to the March's runway, that this project would not pose any additional safety hazard or risk of occupancy or assemblage of people, and it does not prohibit the Air Force from using the base. Talking real briefly about noise, auto parking, and the easement. First off, on the noise, pursuant to the final air installations compatible use zones study from 2018, which is a government document, there's an assertion that noise would be a reason to deny the application. Section 4.4.1.1 of this document states that the highest noise level in Moreno Valley is 74 decibel CNEL. That's page 4-5, and which according to the study is equivalent to a garbage disposal. That's page 4.3. And so I just did a little snippet, little screenshot of that, of where that's stated. And then Appendix A, Table A-2 of the same document, the recommended land use compatibility for noise zone states that auto parking is compatible up to 84 decibel CNEL. So noise would, based on the government's own documents, would not be a reason to prohibit this project. As far as auto parking is concerned, pursuant to the Riverside County Airport Land Use Commission Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan of 2004, which is a document that the opponents reference in their objections, the airport a parking lot or auto parking is not explicitly prohibited by this document. In Section 17, Volume 1, Table MA2, does list the uses that are explicitly prohibited in the clear zone. Auto parking is not explicitly prohibited. In the notes section of that table, it says, see Riverside County Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, Volume 1, Appendix D, for a full list of compatibility designations for specific land uses. When you go to Appendix D, it says automobile parking is potentially compatible with restrictions. See Table 2.A. So you go to Table 2.A, and it's somewhat of a circular reference because it looks an awful lot like Table MA-2. And again, auto parking is not explicitly prohibited by the document. With respect to the easement, I've shown that out of the at least 7 properties that we analyzed, we did not analyze all of the properties that we identified, but of the 7 that we did analyze, 2 had no easement, 4 had easements which were the same or similar to the subject, and then the 1 property that had an additional avigation easement. So it had an easement similar to the subject, but then it had an additional avigation easement release given by the owner to the March Air Reserve Base on behalf of March Inland Port Authority and the City of Paris, which basically created a mechanism by which they could basically put a second easement on top of the property and put the the necessary restrictions regarding structures, trees, etc. Because that language is specifically called for in the document, the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. So there is a mechanism in place for that, and we see that as an opportunity there. This is the site which has the avigation easement. So there's that activity was occurring on December 5th. So you can see exactly the proximity where the photo was taken. The little orange marker is where we took the photo. In summary, the project conforms to the city codes. The project, based on our presentation analysis, it does not pose health and safety risks or hazards to the military flight operations. We've shown that the clear zones are not sacrosanct. You can see that in this clear zone and also the clear zones of other locations. They do allow for the assemblages of people, and there is occupancy, as we've shown. There would be occupancy even in vehicles on HECOC when that is extended. So we see other uses that are already in the clear zone that do not impact the military air operations. Those are schools, hotels, restaurants, car rental business, homes, parks, playgrounds, storage, transportation, obviously parking, and much more. So we see that these already exist in March's clear zone and also surrounding other military bases, Air Force bases even. With respect to noise, we've shown that noise is not a concern. The highest noise level is comparable to garbage disposal. So that would not be a limitation. We've also shown that parking is in fact compatible with the clear zone. And we've also shown that March's own guidelines do provide a mechanism to allow for development in the clear zone, which is already in use today. So that concludes.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for the applicant? Okay.
So, thank you for your presentation. I'm reading the letter from Takano, and it says here, clear zone easement. It says there's a clear zone easement, clearly states that the United States has acquired an interest in this property. So I'm assuming it's talking of the property that's subject to the parking, being considered for parking lot. And it says prohibit all land uses, blah, 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 agriculture crazy and stuff like that. So in your presentation, is that easement, the clear zone easement that Takano's talking about in this December 19th the same easement that you're talking about? That-
There is an easement. There is an easement on the subject property that was executed in 2005, I believe, somewhere around that time. But I think what we've shown is the presence of the easements the presence of any of the easements have not really had any effect whatsoever. And in fact, the government has already allowed, through additional avigation easement, the right to occupy and conduct business within the clear zone. I showed it on this slide right here. Let's see, where is that? This one here. So that property has an easement that's the same as similar to the subject, but they've given them permission to conduct a business there. And you can see it's parking. It's in the same clear zone. So it seems a bit draconian to me that that the government and we have a lot of respect for the Air Force and the military, the utmost respect for what they do. But it seems a tad draconian that they would. It's the same zone. They're permitting this activity, and it doesn't pose health and safety risk, but they would prohibit the applicant from exercising his right to use his property and develop his property according to the city's guidelines.
So I guess it's kind of I see this squared up as kind of a conundrum, because what I'm hearing is Moreno Valley's zoning for the specific plan, this project fits like a glove, hand in a glove with the specific plan. So the situation that is coming of it is what I'm hearing you say is the government has been lax at enforcing clear zone rights. It has not maintained its rights on other properties within the clear zone, even though what you're saying is this property has similar to what the other properties have.
What I'm saying is the government is fully capable and competent with respect to the clear zone. They have allowed this activity in the clear zone that has not posed any health and safety risk to the occupants, or has it prohibited the government from fully utilizing the base and carrying out their operations. So the same activity on another parcel within the clear zone would not create any hazards or prohibit the government from the full use of the base or the runways. That's what I'm saying.
Commissioners, if I can jump in as well, this is Colin with the City Attorney's Office. Just to clarify, hopefully the easement issue for a little bit. The easement issue is, for lack of a better word, a bit of a red herring for the Planning Commission. The city is not the holder of the easement. They're not a beneficiary of the easement. They have no way to enforce the easement. The easement holder, as I understand it, is the Air Force. The Air Force has certain rights within that easement. The Planning Commission, it's not within their purview to really consider whether or not the easement allows this use. The city looks at its municipal code, specifically under the plot plan and the findings required, and determines if they think the project meets those. If you thought maybe it's not allowed because of the easement, that isn't grounds for the Planning Commission to necessarily deny. However, it does potentially give grounds for the Air Force.
That's right.
So we can approve, you can entitle a project potentially and have the Air Force still come in and potentially enforce their private easement.
That's what so this would be a potential step if it gets approved. Then you have to deal with the Air Force if they decided to hammer on to enforce an easement right.
That's above my pay grade.
That's above our, okay, thank you. All right, I just making sure I understand what the lay of the land is.
Okay. I certainly also appreciate your presentation. It did clear up a lot of things. My understanding would be this, and maybe see if you follow my train of thought. Different bases, Air Force bases, naval bases, any bases that happen to use airport would have different types of mandates. There's SAC bases, TAC bases. They all have different things, and within those different types of bases, I'm sure each one probably proposes its own specific security risk. Whether or not you have one base with F-15s, F-16s, or one base that has KC-135, 141s, so that's because they're different types of planes.
It's my understanding, and the Air Force is here tonight, and they maybe can clarify it for you, but it's my understanding that they implemented a policy which created zones around every one of their airports, including a clear zone. So it's a defined area adjacent to their airports, their runways.
I guess what I'm getting at is that one base being able to put operations in one clear zone may not necessarily match at a different base based upon stuff that could be going on with the government. There could be secret information, top secret information that's not privy to and the base could probably say, hey, I'm going to come in. We need to halt this because we have stuff that we need to do that may not just be privy to the general public. Or, is that
after analyzing this subject, and I'm not a aviator, so but after analyzing it, if you look at most of the Air Force bases, they're not in cities. They're in very remote areas. So there's no concern. If you go up to Edwards, there's no community anywhere near there. So this doesn't come up. So they created these guidelines for all of their aviators to use to not only protect the communities, but also, so that it would ensure their capabilities. And what we're saying is that based on their activity, at least over the last 20 years, that we can prove over the last 20 years, activity in that clear zone that's compatible with my client, the applicant wants to use, is compatible with the activity that's existed there for 20 years, and it hasn't created any hazards. So this project wouldn't create any problems. You can see in this case, this is where the F-15 Eagle flies for the 144th Fighter Wing. Okay, it's part of the California Air National Guard. It's an Air Force facility, and I don't know what the different aircraft do, but the F-15 Eagle looks similar to what I saw flying over the March Air Force Base when I was here a couple of weeks ago. It looks like the same thing. I'm sure they're all different, and I'm being a bit naive, but there's a elementary school across the street, a few hundred feet from the runway. So I would say I'm looking at this from a common sense approach. Okay. Yes, the Air Force established these guidelines, if you will, so that it could operate adjacent to communities, and they would stay, that they would be respectful of communities as it relates to noise and activity that they're trying to do to fulfill their mission versus the neighbors and what they're trying to do. And so that's my understanding as far as clear zones go and how that works. Every Air Force airport, from what I understand, they implemented these rules, if you will, these guidelines. They all have the same zones. They may have different noise contours and different things like that based on their operations and maybe based on the style of planes and different things like that. But I've already shown as far as noise, that's not an issue. Because Moreno Valley, the highest noise is a garbage disposal. So
this, I think you asked the question, who would be able to use the parking lot? Is this a paid parking or is this just a parking lot that plops down and anybody could come and park there?
Oh, no. It's a business. This is a business. And, parking is a business. So for instance, as I pointed out here, just a few feet outside of the clear zone is a AAA lot. I don't know if you've been by there.
Yes.
It's a huge lot, and it's for parking cars that have been in accidents. So, no, it's a business. So the parking lot will be developed, and it will be, you know, professionally managed and leased.
I see. Thank you. Are there any other commissioner
Well,
questions?
What I'm seeing here is, I know you're saying that parking lot, but it is kind of like a graveyard, if you will. Because most of the time, like you said, they're cars that are just been in an accident, whatever. So there really isn't too many, you know, you've got the tow truck driver taking them in and parking them, but you're not really having people really, if you really think about it, come and go, as you would say. And I kind of, maybe it's not even in our realm, like the staff was saying, the city attorney, for us to look at that, but it kind of makes it hard when you have the government per se, which is, you know, the military. They're the ones that picks and choose who can do that. And by you trying to say, you know, it's pretty sparse out there. And then, yeah, that one business is there, and I know it's a business, but it's kind of like I said, it's kind of like a graveyard. So you really don't have any live people there as much. Where this other business that you're going to do, you are going to have a lot of people coming and going, and maybe it's like that old additive. If they allow one, then you're going to get another person up there saying the same thing you are. Well, you've allowed this. So I don't know. It's just a conundrum for me, because all the papers I've got, usually we get them from residents. All these are actually Tecano, you know, he's Congress, you know,
Yeah.
and we've got, you know, so it's kind of like,
Well,
maybe it's not even our deal to do that.
Commissioner Stefan, if I can please clarify a couple of things again. You know, the item before the commission tonight, it is a plot plan. The use is within SB 208 a permitted use. So they are allowed to do it as it is a permitted use. We have discussed the easement. It is not enforceable by the city because we are not party to it. And again, it is a parking lot. So while the gentleman just said a moment ago that, you know, he pointed at the AAA lot across the way, that would actually not be permitted. It would be more along the lines of the first individual that spoke on behalf of the applicant to be a parking lot for one of the adjacent logistics uses. That's what we would that's what we would anticipate seeing, because ultimately the storage of vehicles that have been damaged, that's storage, that is not parking. So I want to clarify a couple of things for the commission relative to the land use. And again, the easement held by the Air Force is not within the purview of this
Right.
body.
Yeah, I was just getting a little confused with why we were getting that whole presentation that way, because it seems to me like that isn't even in our jurisdiction, basically. So I kind of was getting confused here.
what, if I may respond, we received copies of the opponent's letters, and there was recurring themes, and they seemed to be sort of regurgitating the same thing over and over. So we just wanted to explain what our take was on those letters, you know, what our position was as it pertains to some of the issues that they raised. So we think we think it's we have a legitimate basis for their concerns to mitigate their concerns.
And yeah, that just really isn't in what we need to decide, though.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other commissioner questions of the applicant? Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I do have one question. I know that in terms of the speaker slips that staff received, we also received one from I believe it is Mr. Shipe as well. So I was just curious if he was going to be speaking as well as part of the applicant team. So I just want to clarify that.
You mean during the applicant?
As part of the
Okay,
yes,
I see.
there were three individuals who submitted requests to speak. So I just want to make sure that we cover all three of them because they are all part of the applicant team.
I see.
Hi, good evening, board members of the council here. My name is David Shipe. I'm the applicant. Thank you, Marty, for putting on a good speech. I think he made a lot of good points as to what I am proposing. And what I'm basically proposing is a parking lot to park a car. So the last time I was in this building was 10 years ago when I bought the property from the Riverside County tax auction. And when I went to the planning department, they told me 10 years ago, the only thing I could do is grow tomatoes, which is agriculture, and I'm not a farmer, or put a road through it and call it David Drive. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe I'll leave it for my daughter. She's 2 years old. 30 years from now, 50 years from now, the world changes. Things will happen. Sure enough, 8 years later, City of Moreno Valley comes out with SP 208, allowing automobile parking in a CZ zone, in a clear zone. So what more can I ask for? The property could only be used for three things. It's almost 10 acres, 9.14 acres. I'm not a farmer. I'm not going to grow tomatoes. I'm not going to put a road through it, which would generate probably a lot of traffic and more danger. So automobile parking. On your answering machine on hold, City of Moreno Valley, if you ever been put on hold, has a major parking problem. They talk about vehicles being parked, but mostly trucks and semi vehicles. Initially, I wanted to put semi trucks here, but now that's not allowed. I'm happy just to put automobile parking. We have 23 big companies that came in my area. We got Amazon, 2 million square feet. We got Rite Aid. All the employees need parking. They need room on their property for their trucks. I've gone to Amazon and they are interested in using this lot for their employee parking lot. Now, you're going to hear a lot of things from the Air Force. I'm putting the country in danger. This is terrible. The world is crashing. My brother is DEA federal agents. My father was a federal agent. My brother was U.S. Army retired. I mean, my whole family is federal. I was just invited to the White House last Thursday by the president, and I flew in. They personally invited me to the White House for an event. I flew into Ronald International. There's a 17-story building right there at Reagan International Airport. Flying back from the airport through Inglewood, approaching LAX, I'm directly over SoFi Stadium, 70,000 people. I look at the screen and I'm 996 feet directly above the SoFi Stadium, directly over it. So I'm 1,500 feet away from March Air Force Base, and I'm off to the east. The AAA property that is in the city of Paris that has the wrecked vehicles is directly under the pathway, but yet they were allowed to proceed and put it through city of Paris. So I'm not getting what the uproar is. There's 14 letters from congressmen, senators, and if you look at the letters, it's common sense. They're all basically saying the same, like somebody is passing around the same template and say, here, sign this. They don't know what's going on. That easement that the Air Force put on my property when I bought it from Riverside County was back in 1980, 42 years ago. Okay, I was 20 years old. I built my first house when I was 19 years old. I'm a big developer now. I'm developing a 300-unit apartment building in West LA. I've never had to go through this or the expense. The city approved it because I'm by righted in. My project, this project is by righted in. And that's when I say by righted, it's governed by the state of California. So if the board, if you don't approve it, you could be held liable. Okay, there are remedies because when you did your SP 208 specific plan, you entitled me to put a parking lot. if for whatever reason I don't get that, the state of California gives me remedies where I can sue and sue for damages, and you pay for my legal fees. Now, I do have one of the top attorneys on board, but I did not want him to come here. Alan Menken, his name is Fernando Villa. He's rated the #1 top land use attorney, but I'm not going there with that. Again, I'm going back to the common sense theory of a parking lot. I want to park my own car. When I came here 10 years ago, I asked the lady at the planning department, what can I do with it? She grow tomatoes. Well, I'm not a farmer, and put a road through it. Okay. Can I park my car? I can't even park my own car. What do you expect me to do with almost 10 acres then? I mean, I'm not understanding this. You're going to hear a lot of crazy things from the Air Force that says, I'm putting the country in danger. What danger? Who's going to die? You're going to smash a car if a plane crashes? You go to LAX every 30 seconds. There's a plane landing or taking off. There's an In-N-Out burger right there by the runway. I mean, so again, I think this case has to do with common sense. They are allowing people to park in the clear zone for the past 20 years. I come up, I do it the right way. These people did it the wrong way. They just threw their tractor trailers up there and nobody's doing nothing. And we had a meeting with the colonel last week of the Air Force. He came 15 minutes late. It was supposed to be an hour meeting. He came 15 minutes late, and he wouldn't even listen to Marty, the speaker. He kept rolling his eyes and looking at his watch. And he goes, well, it seems like the Air Force has a lot of work to do, picks up everything, and he leaves there for 10 minutes. I'm there to try to resolve a problem, work with the Air Force. You've given these aggravated easements to people that have these clear zone, easements. You gave them permission. Why are you not giving me permission? Why are you discriminating against me? What did I do? I'm putting a parking lot. So it's not making sense. And it's kind of frustrating when I sit here, and believe me, I got a lot of paperwork for the past 4 years. I've been working on this case, and thank you for finally having this hearing 3 days before the holidays, because I've been waiting for this day for 4 years. I've been working on it with my civil engineers, the architects, and with the city of Moreno Valley. And today, I'm finally here after 4 years. And all I've been hearing is more letters coming in from congressmen and senators. And when I went to the White House, I mentioned briefly about this. I said, I want to put a parking lot next to the Air Force. And I got 100 letters from senators. They start laughing. And it is a joke when you really look at it, to me. But I'm not understanding it. And all I'm doing is just trying to put a parking lot. When you look at the fees involved, which I heard of, it's going to cost me $1 million in building fees. City of Paris, they want $186,000 for their off-ramp for improvements because my cars are going to be traveling in the city of Paris. Then there's another fee of $145,000, and then your fees. So, I told my civil engineer, how much am I going to be spending for a parking lot? I'm sure those other guys didn't pay anything. And he says, well, maybe $1 million. Well, okay, let's see where it goes. That's fine. Okay. But what do you expect me to do with the property? I'm trying to do the things the right way. I'm not understanding this. I'm a big builder. I've been building ever since I was 19 years old. I've owned over 250 properties. I have, medical buildings. I have shopping centers. I have big commercial buildings. Like I said, this 300-unit apartment building, I'm breaking ground next month. It's a $100 million project, and the city approved it 100%. There was one problem with the property, which the federal government was holding me up. That was FEMA. They were saying my property was in a flood zone. I fought them for 3.5 years at a $500,000 cost, and I won that. Not on the first appeal, not on the second appeal, on the third appeal. And not only did I win, I took out 10 city blocks with me. So I took out all the homeowners with me, and I got it taken out of AO zone into an X zone. People tell me I can't do things, and you look at things and I'm thinking, wait a minute, this is common sense. If you're telling me it's going to flood right there, and then 5 feet over, it's going to flood 12 inches, and the property is level, how does that make sense? So I fight for principle when something doesn't seem right or sound right. And I'm telling you, this doesn't sound right because there are people parking there. There's people, having storage, and there's other remedies that the Air Force, can do. I was willing to come last week and give them their easement, which in their, by the Air Force allows them to do that. Now, as to why they don't want to do that, ask them. I'm not understanding. They gave the other, homeowner an easement to do that in the city of Paris, but maybe they don't like me. I don't know. But I don't think it's fair, and I think the board should approve it. And this is a by right project, and this is only for automobiles. And sir, you mentioned that, well, am I going to be parking trucks there? No, if it's just for automobiles, that's all I'm going to do for automobiles. That's all I'm going to do. There are 23 big major companies over there that are looking for a parking lot for their employees so they could utilize their space for their tractor trailers. You are now seeing tractor trailers parked in the clear zone along Heacock illegally. And they've been there for the past 2 years because the city has been giving them tickets. So now what do? They get out of the street on Indian and they move on to the clear zone and they park there. And now you can't ticket them, but now nobody's saying anything. So if you go to Heacock right now, you're going to see no less than 30 or 40 18-wheeler tractor trailers there. So I'm trying to do the right thing to ease up some of the parking for those companies, mainly Amazon, because Amazon has expressed an LOI interest in renting my property for automobiles. And that's what they want. And that's all I want to do. It's a by right project. It's a common sense project. So I hope you guys, approve it. I think it's the right thing to do. And I think it's the only thing to do, given that there's only 3 things I can do with it. Becoming a farmer, put a road, and I think this is going to be the least amount of, danger of cars being parked there all day. People go to work, they come at 8 o'clock, the car is going to sit there empty. They come back to the car, they get in and they go. Nobody's going to be there at night, come and go, and that's it.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. Thank you very much.
thank
sir.
you very much for your
All right. Are there any questions of the applicant?
No, I just wanted to thank him for his presentation. He was very, very good. You did a great job. I understood all of it.
Okay. Let me ask real quick. How many speakers do we have?
We currently have 6.
6 speakers. All right. I'd like to take a recess for 10 minutes before we go into public testimony, give people a chance to get some water and maybe go to the restroom. So we'll take a recess for about 10 minutes and reconvene at 7:30. All right, thank you everyone for your patience and understanding. At this time, I'd like to reconvene the Planning Commission meeting for the City of Moreno Valley back at 7:30 p.m. All right, and at this time, looks like we are going to open up the public testimony portion. And the clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on the agenda item. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, Chair, we have 6.
Okay.
I will begin with Major John Collies, followed by Simon Houseman, followed by Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton Underwood.
Good evening. My name is Major John Collis. I'm legal counsel for March Air Reserve Base. I am speaking on behalf of the installation commander, Colonel Eric Ofterhide. Colonel Ofterhide had a pre-existing holiday travel plan and was unable to attend this evening. He sends his apologies, but he asked me to convey his importance that he places in the Planning Commission's decision in the eyes of the base. I'm here to share the Air Force's opposition to the proposed construction of the Heacock Logistics parking lot. It is the policy of the Air Force to engage with its community partners to foster compatible land use and to help local governments and communities better understand the nature of military operations and procedures in and around Air Force installations. In this case, the proposed project is not a compatible land use. The Air Force must voice its opposition to this project, as letters from the March Installation Commander, elected officials, and several other organizations have noted. This proposed development is within a clear zone south of the March Air Reserve Base runway. Due to the nature of military aviation operations, there is an increased risk of accidents within a clear zone, which justified the creation of a perpetual easement for the South Clear Zone parcels in 1984, including this parcel. This easement on this parcel granted the United States government the right to prohibit all land uses except agriculture, grazing, permanent open space, existing waterways, rights of way for fenced 2-lane highways without sideways or bicycle walks, single-tracked railroads, and communications and utilities rights of way. Because of this easement and the specific safety concerns that you will be hearing about from my colleague shortly, the Air Force opposes development of the proposed Heacock Logistics parking lot. The installation commander did meet with the property owner and the developer earlier this month. The concerns about other parcels were raised to us, and we are addressing them. Furthermore, the base has in the past expressed its opposition to the proposed Heacock Street extension south to Harvey Knox. March Air Reserve Base remains dedicated to maintaining positive and effective relationships with community partners for the benefit of Moreno Valley, Riverside County, and all of Southern California. I thank you for the opportunity to provide input regarding this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next, we have Simon Houseman, followed by Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton Underwood, followed by Dan Fairbanks.
Mr. Chairman, lady and gentlemen of the commission, my name is Simon Houseman. I'm with the Riverside County Airport Land Use Commission. I was chairman of that commission for about a decade. I was then director, and now I'm working on the March Compatible Use Study, which the city of Moreno Valley is participating in and has invested several thousands of dollars in. I'd like to answer the question about why the ALUC didn't review this project. That's because something else happened in June of 2021. The Moreno Valley General Plan was found to be consistent with the 2014 Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. Under the California Aviation Act, when that occurs, the ability to review a project covered by the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan can be delegated to the city so long it is ministerial, not legislative. In other words, a plot plan can be reviewed by the city because it doesn't involve changing the general plan. the general plan for this parcel is open space, which is what made the general plan consistent with the 2014 Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan, which is why when the request came in June for hearing in July or August, the ALUC's response was, you can do this yourself because you've now been found consistent. Many months later, in a conversation, it was suggested that the city could voluntarily submit this matter to the ALUC because it's very controversial. And there was some discussion about doing that, but didn't occur. So on October 24th of 2022, the director of the ALUC, Mr. Paul Rule, wrote a letter, which is in your files, outlining what the ALUC would have done if the ALUC were to review this project and all the reasons why. The ALUC, according to Director Rule, would have found this project inconsistent because the A zone is part of the runway, literally, and you aren't allowed to have any people there. So all those things are detailed in his letter. I won't bother you with them. I will expand the argument to point out that this project is not covered by the general plan. It relies on the specific plan 208. Specific plan is not consistent with the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. And under an opinion of the Attorney General of California, number 03805, issued on July 22nd of 2004, a specific plan is not exempt from the more stringent requirements of the
Thank you,
ALUC.
sir. Your time expired.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Next, we have Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton Underwood.
Good evening. My name is Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton Underwood. I am the Mission Support Group Commander for the 452nd Air Mobility Wing. I am here to share the Air Force's perspective regarding the proposed construction of the Heacock Logistics parking lot. I would like to highlight the substantial safety concerns within the proposed project. With respect to accident potential, the Air Force conducted analysis between 1968 and 1972, and again in 1999 and 2008, of aircraft accidents within 10 nautical miles of all airfields. The Air Force has determined that 91% of all aircraft accidents were related to takeoff and landing operations. Based on its findings, the Air Force has designated 3 safety zones for areas beyond the ends of the runway, each of which reflect a relative statistical incidence of accident potential. These safety zones are the clear zone and accident potential zones 1 and 2. The clear zone area is immediately beyond the end of the runway and extending outward at 3,000 feet with a width of 3,000 feet. The majority of aircraft accidents, approximately 62%, occur within or adjacent to the airfield clear zone. The Air Force therefore opposes development of the proposed Heacock Logistics parking lot. The development would present serious safety concerns due to the persistent presence of vehicles parked for an extended period of time, as well as the presence of pedestrians in the parking lot. The Air Force is also concerned about the possibility of a wide variety of electromagnetic spectrum interference that could come from personal devices and stationary vehicles in the parking lot. March Air Reserve Base remains dedicated to maintaining a positive and effective relationship with the community partners for the benefit of Moreno Valley, Riverside County, and all of Southern California. I thank you for the opportunity to provide the input regarding this project.
Thank you.
Next, we have Dan Fairbanks, followed by Grace Martin, followed by Greg Custer.
Good evening, Chairman Dejanot and members of the Planning Commission. I'm Dan Fairbanks. I'm the Planning Director of the March Joint Powers Authority. I'm here in opposition to this request, and I'm here to reiterate some of the comments that were made in 2 March JPA letters. And then I'd like to identify how those comments relate to the plot plan. Regarding the project initial study and CEQA study, the March JPA identified that the initial study should disclose and analyze that the site is in the clear zone, and that the Air Force statistics identify that 27.4% of accidents within 10 nautical miles of the airport would occur in the clear zone. The JPA also identified in the land use and planning section that it should be disclosed and analyzed that according to the air installation compatibility use zone study, that parking facilities are not recommended uses in the clear zone. And we also asked under the land use and planning section that the initial study should disclose and analyze that the United States government acquired a restrictive easement in this area that limits uses to the list that's been discussed, but essentially agriculture, open space, utility lines, grazing, 2-lane roads, and single line railroad tracks. So relating to those items that we identified in our letters, we believe this request does not meet the required findings for a plot plan, as identified on page 3 of Resolution 2022-42. We believe this application is in fact detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare. And we believe this use is not compatible with the existing and planned land uses in the area. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you.
Next, we have Grace Martin, followed by Greg Custer.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of Planning Commission. Happy holidays. Dr. Grace Martin, Executive Director for the March JPA and the March Inland Port Airport Authority. We operate out of March through a shared use agreement with the Air Force. I'm here to speak on the statement by the applicant's consultant that the project does not interfere with base operations or inhibit economic development. Moreno Valley is a member agency of the March JPA. We're redeveloping over 3,000 acres of former military properties. I will tell you, I've been with the JPA going on 14 years. I have never had an experience where the base expresses opposition to a project and a community disregards the concern. And it's significant to us because in the jobs that we create at March JPA, we created over 15,000 jobs. We did an economic study that showed that we have more Moreno Valley residents working in the area than in any other city in Riverside County. And so we're not here to ask that you enforce the Air Force's easement. We know that's not your job. We're here to ask that you deny the project for the protection of life and safety of your residents and economic viability of the base in our airport. Last year, the base, we had 80,000 operations out of the base with the KC-46 coming to our area. That operation number will increase. I will tell you because an F-16 did go down in one of our buildings near the base. Even though we're not in the clear zone, we take the base's input very, very seriously. So I am here to respectfully request that you deny this project based solely on what your partner is voicing. And we also know that if the base's operations are at risk, so will the economic viability of our work here at the JPA and the services that we can provide for your residents and your businesses here in Moreno Valley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Greg Custer.
Good evening, Greg Custer, and I'm with the Moreno Valley Chamber of Commerce Military Affairs Committee. And on this project, I'm requesting respectfully that you decline this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other speakers?
No, Chair.
At this time, would the applicant like to provide any additional information?
Yes, thank you very much. As I told you, I knew they were going to come up and basically say that I'm putting the lives, the safety and the welfare in danger. Again, I'd like to point out that this is March. March Air Force Base's position. They know they have a problem. They want this problem to go away. The problem being is that I woke up a dead horse. Why? There's 7 other people that have storage containers there, tractor trailers there. We pointed it out to them. They've been there 20 years. They're allowing them to do it. Now they're suddenly saying, oh, yeah, we're going to work on it. Where were you 20 years ago working on it? They're never going to work on it. Let's get that straight. My property is way on the far end of Moreno Valley. The river right there separates me from the city of Paris. So I call it out in the boondocks. I am out in the middle of no man's land out there. So I don't know how my 9 acres is going to put the safety and the welfare of the homeowners and the people and the planes. That plane that went down, that was 5 miles away on the other side of the 215, and the pilot, ejected himself because of a malfunction or something with the plane. When the other gentleman at the March Air Force Base talked about dangers and accidents, 91%. Okay, what is considered to be an accident? If you spill gasoline on the floor, okay, that's an accident, I would think, and they would have to fill out a report. So I consider an accident as a plane crash. When's the last time, other than the pilot ejecting because of emergency issues, that was done, not because of plane error, but by something that happened with the plane that he ejected out of? When was the last time we heard of an airplane crashing? And it can crash anywhere. Are you going to say it's going to crash on my property? It's very important to note that this March Air Force Base was destined to close down before it was saved by Obama 12 years ago. They're closing a lot of Air Force bases, okay? Probably 10 years from now, it won't even be there. All right, but 12 years ago, Obama saved it at the last minute. What do we have there today? We got FedEx there using it more than 51%, not the Air Force. You got private use aircraft there. You got UPS, FedEx, Amazon. They are using that airport like LAX, okay, a regular commercial use airport. So yes, once in a while, the Air Force is using that base for training for pilots for landings and takeoffs. That's why they're concerned. But these pilots are learning how to fly. Well, they could crash anywhere. What makes you think they're going to crash on my property? They're going to crash on the other side of the 215. So, again, when they can say that there's been accidents, an accident could be spilling of fuel on the runway, and they have to fill out a report. So please, this project should be approved. It's a common sense thing. Obviously, they're not going to like it. They know they have a problem. I think what they need to do is first correct their problems with all the surrounding properties, then come back and say, well, you see, we did a good job. Everybody's got, that's never going to happen. 5, 10 years from now, those properties have been there 20 years without any problem. So, this is a by right project. You have more power and authority, the city of Riverside, Moreno Valley, than the United States Air Force. You can approve this project. I urge you to approve this project. And if the Air Force has a problem with it, I'm willing to work out a deal with them even after it's approved. But, by law, by right, this project should be and can be and rightfully should be common sense approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, if there's no more speakers, we'll close the public testimony and move into deliberations. We would have to reopen it. Then we have to give you can if we reopen. We're in deliberations. If we want to go back, then I'd have to reopen.
I too have issues, but due to the, perhaps maybe some of your questions when we start actually deliberating, but it may be of necessity to suggest a continuance.
Okay, are we deliberate? Because basically we have to find out if the parking lot is within the land usage, and that's it. We don't have anything to
Yeah.
do with the easements. We don't have anything to do with any of
Why
that.
are we gonna continue?
Well,
don't know.
We've already sat 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if we continue it, make an
Open it.
informed decision.
No,
No, I
absolutely can.
I'm in it to win it.
Okay.
We're here. Yeah.
So
The Grinch is already out.
what
so
what
let's go.
section would I have to reopen because Commissioner Steffens have questions of staff?
You can just reopen, you can reopen the public hearing. That does not mean that public comments reopen. We're past that point. We can just leave the public hearing open if there's questions of the commission of staff.
Okay, well, let's reopen the public hearing.
I have a question because so they stated that they found it inconsistent with the plot plan because it is zoned for open space. So I have a difficulty with that. I know that the general plan, it's different from the plot plan and the open space. So what is the difference there? I mean, if it's just actually inconsistent with what is wanting to be placed there because it's open space. Open space just means open space. It doesn't mean like anything should be there.
So the general plan is ultimately the overall guiding document of the city of Moreno Valley. The city's municipal code and the specific plan 208 that's adopted for this project is ultimately the implementation measure by which we utilize to implement development within the city of Moreno Valley. So the specific plan while the general plan does identify open space, it does not have a list of permitted uses. That's what's established in the specific plan. And therefore, in the specific plan, we do identify automobile parking as a permitted use.
Okay, so you identified, the city identified it as automobile use.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, that was my big thing there because I know that there was a list in the other plan stating that automobiles weren't even listed on there.
The other thing I would also note for the record is that the responses we received from ALUC were prior to the adoption of the general plan by the city council, where they sent recused it back to the city of Moreno Valley for action.
Right.
So when we referred it to them, it was still in their jurisdiction.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I understand this. So there was some testimony or some comment made that the general plan, okay, there was a 2014 general plan and the 2021 general plan. Is that, and does the current general plan as approved, what does that show for this specific piece of property?
So the general plan again designates the property as open space.
Okay.
However, the specific
wait,
plan.
can I ask? Okay.
Yes.
So if we were to pull the document open right now, it would say open space in the general plan.
Yes.
Why was the general plan approved if there's a overlying when was the specific 208 specific plan 208 approved?
Specific plan 208 was actually originally approved back in the 1980s.
Okay, so why would the current general plan still show a designation for something that's already rezoned under a specific plan as something else other than open space?
So again, open space is a general category. There are a mix of uses that are actually allowed in open space zones, parking being one of them. If you go to any city park,
Does it say that in the Moreno Valley Municipal Code?
Does the municipal code identify other uses in open space? Yes.
Or open space?
Yes. And the specific plan ultimately the specific plan was adopted, and actually the specific plan is just that it's more specific than even the municipal code is, and it went through its own process and procedures to adopt land uses.
Commissioner Stelman.
To your discretion, is that what happened here? They left it to the city's discretion as to,
They didn't give the city any choice.
okay, so, okay.
Okay, then at this time, I'd like to close the public testimony portion of our meeting and move into deliberations.
I'll give you my 2 cents on this. I don't really have an issue with the parking lot. I mean, it seems like this was a clear zone's a clear zone, and everybody I think understand why there's a clear zone. Comparables doesn't always, past performance doesn't mean what's going to happen in the future. So that's why there's clear zones. Suffice to say. And I really don't understand all the easement, and I don't, and as attorney has opined us, I don't see that that's our purview to get into. However, I do have concerns if the general plan says one thing as open space, while there's a pre-existing specific plan. I personally believe that the general plan should reflect on the land use map in the general plan that there's a specific plan approved for that allows for other uses than what I'm a planning commissioner. I would think open space is open space. It's like for hills, it's for park or open space. I don't know, but anyhow, I think, I do believe that the easement thing is a red herring. I think if the Air Force wants to impose their will of the clear zone, that's a beef that they can get into with the property owner. So I don't particularly agree with if we have a general plan that our city has approved and it's gone through the whole process, but there's an underlying specific plan. I don't understand why the specific plan wasn't just set. But that's my issue. But
I'll give it a shot. I read all the letters. I heard the testimony. I heard the presentation. At the end of the day, this is a parking lot, and I have a lot of trust in our staff, and have a lot of trust in the attorney that the city of Moreno Valley has, and I know they're going to dot their I's and cross the T's. Maybe I was asking myself. I know for a fact that we're not. The easement and even part of the presentation really has nothing to do with this. I'm looking at if, I think we've said that before, a square peg, a square hole. This is what this project is. And as far as the clear zone and the easement, City of Moreno Valley, I'm sure they did their homework on it. It was thrown in their court to make a decision. This is what they decided, and I'm going to approve this project. I don't see how I would vote otherwise. I mean, we've made it very clear to us, and for those that you don't know, we're planning commissioners that have to play by a certain set of rules, and there's certain projects that we can't vote a certain way on. So we have to also vote away if a project is a round peg and a round hole, or vice versa. We're really stuck in between a rock and a hard spot, and I know we've had some residents very upset about that fact. The last planning commission was a clear example, but this is another clear example of a project that some people are not going to like, but unfortunately, it just fits.
Yeah, I didn't even deal with that easement because that wasn't even our issue. Our issue was to see if the city of Moreno Valley did everything that they needed to do and do their due diligence. What I can see about this is that on the other side, they left it up to the city. And that's who our interest is, the city of Moreno Valley. And the city of Moreno Valley decided that, you know, it fit and a parking lot can go there. So I don't see, you know, they could hash it out and they're going to, you know, I think they should have said, these things can go there and this is what you have to follow. And if you don't follow this, then there's an issue. But they didn't do that. What they did is they said, you use your discretion, you use what you feel is okay. Well, they gave you the green light, like they said. And so now they're coming back and saying, hey, wait a minute, you know, at the last hour, well, if they want to do something with their easement, which is in their realm, not ours, you know, I don't feel that we have any choice but to approve, actually. I thought it was you know, pretty cut and dry until all these other issues came up, which we didn't really even, wasn't in our genre really. So that's just what I feel. I just had to clear that up about the plot plan and the open space, but then they let you guys decide what would go in open space. So.
Okay. Yeah, same. You know, I'm looking at, is it fit or, you know, does it fit the plan? Gosh, I've been in the city, like you said, for 100 years and, gosh, 53 years. Let me see if I can remember. It doesn't sound like the parking lot poses the safety issue. It sounds like the planes taking off and landing pose a safety issue. Gosh, in my time, 78, a B-52 crashed. 81, I was at the high school, another B-52 crashed while I was on campus, watched it go down. In 85, Convair, CV990 went down in 85, and a Learjet 23 went down in 88, all from March Air Force Base. A lot of people don't know that. That's just in my lifetime. So yes. So 4 planes from the time I was in high school, junior high. I was in high school in 79. So 3 planes in high school down. I would imagine there could be more. Myself, I probably wouldn't want to put anybody in that type of a zone because, you know, planes do crash, and especially on takeoff and landing. But it sounds like the employers are going to park and leave and go to work and probably just get most of their cars damaged if that happens. It's not like they're hanging out in the middle, you know, shooting a breeze or anything like that. So I don't particularly have a problem with this. And I just think that if ALUC or JPA or the March Air Force Base had a real issue with this, and they would have taken those steps prior to this part. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, I'm going to vote for it, just in the fact because our city apparently has the discretion for this through the specific plan. I don't think this is the last of it that is going to hear of it, but I do remind that Moreno Valley is a member agency of the March JPA, and when it's always good when a partnership, everybody works together in the partnership. So this is where it sounds like Moreno Valley is doing its own thing, but it's suffice to say that has an opportunity to work out. So I won't reiterate all the other stuff, but anyhow, parking lot's a parking lot. So anyhow.
You know, I like the project. You go down in that end of town, we need something, even if it's a parking lot, but I see no problem with it. I'm going to vote for approval on it.
With that said, we have a motion and a second. And wait, don't forget that there's an amendment, all right, to the conditions of approval. All right. Well, let me give it a shot then. I make a motion that the planning commission approve resolution 2022-59, PEN 210174. And,
That's incorrect.
Is it? I'm on the wrong one? Oh, I'm on number 2. 2242. There we go. Yeah, I'm 41 to 42. Look at that. It made a big jump, didn't it? Yeah, it did it. It made a big jump. While I'm searching, anybody else want to get? Oh, there we go. Here we go. I don't know why it jumped like that. All right, there we go. I recommend the planning commission approve. Let me make sure I got this right. 2022-41, 2022-42. With the amendments to the conditions of approval. Does that sound about right?
I second that.
The motion carries. Then,
Sorry, Commissioner, I'll open it back up.
there we go.
I not vote.
Oh yeah, it did some crazy stuff over here. Yeah,
Somebody needs to be a second.
I can't be the mover and the second. Okay. Oh, and I think we have to push a abstain for, oh, yeah. She has to do it. Yeah, okay, the motion carries. Do we have a staff wrap up?
Yes, Chair. The action taken by the Planning Commission this evening is an appealable action. Any interested party that would like to file an appeal may do so within 10 days of this action. If an appeal is filed, it must be in writing and directed to the Community Development Director, stating the specific reasons for the appeal, along with the appeal filing fee. If an appeal is received, it will be agendized for a public hearing before the City Council. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on agenda, number 2, is the applicant is requesting approval for a conditional use permit to allow for the operation of a commercial cannabis micro business to include retail sales, distribution, and cultivation within an existing building within the commercial mid-use district. On staff report. Hey, welcome back.
Chair, if we can just identify for the record that Commissioner Chen did rejoin the commission at 8:08 p.m. this evening.
All right, for the record, I'd like to acknowledge that Commissioner Chen rejoined the Planning Commission at 8:08 p.m.
And the presentation this evening will be made by Senior Planner Julia Dakota.
Good evening again. The project before you this evening is a conditional use permit for the operation of a commercial cannabis micro business. The project is located on Alessandro Boulevard at Indian Street in the Sunnymead Village Center within the commercial mixed-use zoning land use district, which allows the use with the approval of a conditional use permit. The project site has 3 existing driveways on Alessandro and also has actually 2 on Alessandro and then 2 on Indian. The project will go into the existing shopping center and has the required, in addition to extra parking based on the parking standards for not only that one building, but the reciprocal access for all the shopping center. No additional parking is required for the proposed project. Within the parking lot and the exterior of the building, there will be some improvements to the building, painting, and some parking lot improvements, just your slurry, those types of things to bring it up to standards, landscaping wherever is required. The micro business has two public entrances for the building or for the use. One entrance leads to the business reception area, and then the other one goes into the dispensary. The building includes 3 components, which is required for a micro business. It has a dispensary, it has distribution, and it has cultivation. Within a micro business, the maximum square footage for cultivation is 10,000 square feet of use within the building, which this building is showing. The rest of the building is the dispensary area, which is approximately 5,000 square feet. And then there's the distribution areas, office areas, and different ancillary areas within the building. This provides the front elevation to the building. As I stated again, the building won't have any additional improvements to the building. The surrounding land uses include the same commercial zoning across the street on Alessandro, and there is residential to the south of this project. We have received 2 comment letters regarding the project after the project was uploaded, and those have been provided to you this evening. At this time, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2022-59, finding that the conditional use permit is categorically exempt from the provisions of the California Environmental Quality Act as a Class 1 exemption and Section 15061B3 for the common sense exemption, and approve the conditional use permit for a commercial cannabis business, micro business, with the conditions of approval. This time, myself and the applicant are here to answer any questions for you. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any commissioner questions for staff?
So can you remind me, we approved a CPU right on the corner that where the pawn shop in that building, or I don't know if the pawn shop's even there, but there's an approval. Is there a CUP approved there?
There was a CUP approved there. However, that license is not in place any longer.
And then we approved one across the street at the liquor store or the freestanding building on, that one's still active?
That one is still entitled. I believe they are pursuing. That applicant is pursuing that one, yes.
And then there is an existing already in this, I don't know if it's, I haven't gone
Yes.
there, but it is.
Yes,
what
there,
is it?
yes,
Is it-
SIPCOI is currently established already within the center today with a micro business as well.
Thank you.
As on the elevation plan that I see here, I see one sign that says Empire Gardens. Now, I've had some concerns. I'm just asking staff, is that the only sign that designated? And if not, how many more signs? Because I know there's been other projects, and I could think of one in particular. I asked this question, and now the whole building looks like a circus. Yeah, it's all lit up. And I'm talking about the one on Postal. You know what I mean? Mr. Nice Guy. So I do not want that to happen to here. So, and I specifically asked, they're going to have one sign and the whole building is painted the same colors. So what are we to keep? How much signage can they put around this? And no offense for the neighbor, Sequoia, has quite a bit of signage too. Lit up signs. So are we going to keep it professional, discreet, or are we going to light it up like Mr. Nice Guy does right off the freeway? I can't stand that. So I want to make sure that how much signage are they allowed to put on these buildings?
So they are only allowed to install a single sign advertising the business. some of the other businesses in town.
What about logos? I know it's a sign, but what about logos? Lit up logos.
It is one sign. Logos will count into that as well. We are, with some of the existing cannabis businesses in town, I'm not going to name names this evening. We are continuing to work with them through code enforcement to correct the signage issues on their properties.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to put it on record that we need to make sure that I've seen some businesses that look pretty professional, their signage, and then just some that have gotten out of hand. So I'm just trying to figure out what are we doing to rein that in. Thank you.
Any other commissioner questions for staff? No? Okay. At this time, would the applicant like to speak?
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Chairman, Planning Commission. Good evening, staff. My name is Joshua Nagar. I'm a representative. I'm the applicant's counsel. And we just want to say we're grateful for staff's recommendation. We don't really have any issues with the conditions of approval, and we accept them. And we look forward to doing great business, additional great business in the city of Moreno Valley. And I just want to back up for a second and indicate Empire Gardens, which is the DBA name of the operation, was one of the first 5 licenses in the state of California, originating in Paris, California. And it was one of the first few to open up in Moreno Valley, and it has a location already operating here. And it's been very successful here, and I think remits a great deal of taxation to the city, and it's a great partner with the city. So what we're trying to do is just expand our success in the city and in the region. And we're grateful for staff's recommendation to do so. And we're grateful to occupy a building that needs a little TLC in a place of the city needs a little TLC. So I know it's getting late and everybody's tired, so I'm here to facilitate any questions. I won't labor the process. And we brought our engineer as well as the landlord here to answer any questions you may have as well. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you. Well, while you're here, do we have any questions for the applicant?
Chair, I have a question for staff real quick, and then I can, if I can get to the applicant, if that's okay. Staff, in the logos, in this advertising, anything pertaining to marijuana logos is not acceptable, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so this Empire Gardens, sir, that's kind of been the one I've always looked at. You're off of Heacock, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so you guys have 3 marijuana leaves in your logo. Is that correct?
I do not believe so.
No?
I think those are palm trees.
Those are palm trees?
Yeah, because there's lots of palm trees in the Inland Empire.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Are there any more questions for the applicant? No? Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners.
Oh, what? Yeah.
Question.
Oh,
Yeah.
there we go.
And by the way, those palm trees are very deceiving. I'm looking at a picture right now of it. I can show you what that looks like. That's not a palm tree, by the way. So,
That's the Paris location. Those are green crosses.
oh, okay. Well, that doesn't look like a palm tree. Just on the record, that logo is not a palm tree.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, and that's your logo. So, are you planning on putting this logo up in our Moreno Valley one?
You know, that would, I think I don't know if we gave a sign plan over to staff, but if it's out of alignment with the sign plan, we would stick with the plan on record.
Ultimately, the sign plan will come before staff at a later date, and we will work with the applicant to make sure that we maintain compliance with our code.
Are we still allowing, with a question for staff, green crosses? Are we still doing that? That's still an allowable sign.
We've actually worked with a number of applicants to remove them.
Thank you. Now I have a question for the applicant. That area, I know that area, and your neighbors next door probably need to clean their filters out. So what is your filtration system going to be like? Because you're going to be cultivating, right?
Yes.
So can you have explain to me your process of filtration that? Because if I lived, because you do have some residential nearby, so what is your process of filtration? Explain to me your high tech and how you plan on your maintenance. How's your maintenance going to make sure that you guys are constantly being mindful of the smell that your cultivation is like now? Because I tell you this much, your neighbor, a couple times I've driven down the street, I can smell it from the street. Yeah, well, so, can you explain?
Absolutely. Thank you for your question. You know, we've been in the industry a long time, and as some of you may note from your experience, the odor in retail as of late isn't as heavy as the odor in cultivation. The odor in retail doesn't really become a problem because it's all closed packaging nowadays. But which brings me to answering your question. In cultivation, you have a dense amount of plant matter in one place, and that's typically where you need to address odor control the most. What we've been very successful at doing at all our locations is having carbon filters that can scrub the premises in an industrial scale, you know, not just once or twice per hour. I think we're trying to design them to scrub the entire premises every 3 to 5 minutes. So I think when you're dealing with open plant matter, you're going to want to go, forgive me, overkill, basically, and go for a scrub every 3 to 5 minutes. What a lot of people don't know with carbon filters and this plant matter is you got to change the filter about every 90 days to 180 days. So without processes put in place to do that, you're going to get a backup of smell. Additionally, if you want to enclose some of the grow rooms and put some padding in there, that also can help. And then when you harvest, certain harvest protocols, that's when a lot of the smell seeps out. When you cut plants, you know, just like your Christmas tree at home, the more you mess with it, you're breaking leaves, it's going to smell a little bit. So you have some harvest protocols in place, some distribution protocols in place, so that when the exposed plant matter is near, you know, any type of ventilation system, any type of door system, whether it's exiting the premises or not, you have protocols in place to limit that when it's not packaged. So we think we got it in control. We did submit a plan, and we think it's a good plan.
Thank you.
Stay right there. Don't move. Sean, are they gonna, can they be closed down if the smell isn't being like, coming out too much?
So there are multiple layers of inspections that they get to go through. They get inspections from the state of California. They can be based off of complaints. They can get a random inspection from our code enforcement division. They also have a compliance inspection. I want to say it's quarterly, but I don't, by our financial resources division as well. Don't quote me on that exact timeline, but I know they're going out on a regular basis as well and doing inspections. So we are looking at these properties on a very regular basis through multiple different venues, and you know, our code enforcement is the most active out of the 3 different entities, you know, so state and then
Okay.
2 different city
Okay.
entities.
My question was, can they be closed down because of the smell that they might be emitting? And how many times are they allowed to maybe get, you know, well, you got to fix it. You got to fix it. I mean, before they're actually closed down.
So what we would actually end up doing is if we had a situation where our code enforcement department division was, our community enhancement division, I should say, was unsuccessful in being able to remedy the situation by working with the applicant, what would happen is that conditional use permit would actually come back before the commission for your consideration to either impose additional conditions of approval or revoke their permit, which in turn would revoke their license.
Okay, because I'm just Kobe saying that he's driven by and he can smell it. I mean, I don't go on that side of town very much at all, if at all. So I don't know if I lived in that area, because there are houses behind there. I know that, you know, maybe these poor people aren't really complaining about it, but I was just wondering how many times, you know, are they allowed to have that emit and that smell? Because I know it's a distinctive odor, and before something is really done.
So there isn't a set threshold in place to how many times that will occur or could occur. What we are always looking for with the property owners is to obtain compliance. And if we cannot obtain compliance through community enhancement, then we go the next route, which is to bring it back before the planning commission for
No.
revocation.
Now, I do understand that maintenance is a very important thing, like you said, where you do it every 3 months or whatever. Otherwise, the filters aren't going to work right. I understand that, as a housewife, you got to change. If you have a vacuum cleaner that has a bag, you have to change it. If you have one that doesn't, you have to clean it out, or it's just not going to do the job properly. So is there anybody in the city that is looking at these people as maintaining their maintenance on the filters and changing them, and how many times? I mean, I got a swimming pool. If they don't clean out my filter, it's going to start getting green and whatever. You know what I mean? Is there anybody like a watchdog watching that they're keeping up with that?
Yes, that is both our financial resources division is looking at that with a sub-consultant, but also we are looking at it through community enhancement as well. And to expand on that, I'm actually going to ask the community development director to add a little bit more information on that.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. The community enhancement officers are the ones that go out and look at the different locations, the cannabis locations, and we check them to see if there's any violations. Certainly, we do have some signs, but for the most part, everybody has cooperated with us, and so we work with them first. We give them an opportunity to take care of the problem, and we give them time to do that because they have the right to look at the code and see what they can and can't do. We give them a copy of the code as well. And then again, we give them time to remove it. We don't give them too much time, but we give them time to do it. If they don't do it, we come back and we'll give them another warning. At that point, we may cite them, which is $100. And we give them, I believe, about up to 7 days or less. And if they haven't done it, then we'll cite them again. It goes up $200, $300, up to $500. And we can go basically every day and cite them. So again, if there is a location that has that problem, then we need to be notified and we will send somebody out there. But we do go to the sites and we drive by to make sure signage is meeting the requirements and going from there. As far as one of the ones that one of the commissioners mentioned, I will send somebody over there to take a look at that site and make sure that they're in compliance as well. But we try to treat everybody the same, and we give them enough time to remove the signs and do any changes they have to do within a timely manner.
I'm just concerned because these are going to be two micro businesses, kind of like pretty close in proximity. And if the other one's already like not really keeping up with the hygiene, as they say, I'm kind of wondering if it's going to cause an issue for the residents where that area is going to be smelling like a lot.
And I could tell you this location, we did talk to some people there and they cleaned it up right away. And so, again, it's just a matter of talking to them. A lot of them don't understand the requirements, but we give them a copy of the codes and they have it. And after that, we really don't have too many problems with them.
The other thing that I would direct the commission to in regard specifically to odor is we actually have specific, getting a little later tonight, we have specific conditions relative to odor control measures already in the conditions of approval. It is condition 36. If you want to look at that, that is the first condition in terms of just their odor control plan. But then we go even further, referencing the heating and ventilation systems in 37, windows and door framing, and requirements for renovation of the building for those purposes, automatic closures, exterior door sills being replaced, roof venting, wall penetrations being sealed, air curtains. We go on and on and on relative to odor specifically.
Yeah, I know the
because
city
we know
does.
it's pervasive.
Yeah, I know the city does. I'm just saying that the establishment itself, they need to really be up on that because otherwise, these areas are going to really start smelling, like my next door neighbor. Yeah.
Well, I'd like to speak to that briefly if I can, Chairman. We have been open for more than a year in your city, and we have been inspected by, I think, Lana Jimenez's team. And this is what they said after the last inspection about our operation, just so you know. They said, "I'd like to commend you and your team for a well-run commercial cannabis business. Your well-managed business operations are what is helping the city's cannabis program become a positive role model for such programs in the state of California." That's your own city staff. That's an actual inspection of our open business. So maybe not everybody's the same is what I'm trying to say. And we've been inspected. We've been in business for over a year. We've been paying our taxes, which were quite material. So we think we're one of the horses to deserve your bet, I guess is the point. And I thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. I guess I'll direct this one back to staff. So the COP 8 pertains to signage. And is that just for the building itself? Because they're going to submit signage plans and condition of approval number 8. And so you said they're only permitted to one site. Does that also, that conditions of approval, does that also umbrella billboards?
What do you mean by billboards?
So what I mean is that if you're we see Empire Gardens and it says no marijuana. You can't say we're selling marijuana. Come buy your weed here. Yeah, it doesn't. It can't say that.
You're referencing along Caltrans right away?
And yeah, so but then you'll see a billboards saying those same things come here, but then it doesn't encompass those.
So no, the billboards along Interstate 60 are not something that we are able to regulate in that same manner.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah.
What about the sign twirlers?
That's freedom of speech.
Because I see that too.
I understand, but they are protected under freedom of speech.
Wow. Okay. So no marijuana on the building, but the sign twirler out front can have what's that? Spicoli? Jeff Spicoli out front. Never mind. I get that. Okay. No. All right. Any other questions of the applicant or staff? No. All right. At this time, I'd like to open the public testimony. The clerk will call upon each person who has requested to speak. Each member of the public wishing to speak will have a maximum of 3 minutes to speak on this agenda item. Do we have any public comments?
Yes, we do. We have 4. And we can begin with Chris Hansen.
Hello, staff. My name is Chris Hansen. I am one of the owners of the Sipcoy dispensary that is located in the same shopping center that you guys are looking to review to give a license to. I want to touch on something that I've heard several times here tonight is you guys view us as your partner. We view you as our partner as well. So I just want you to know that by bringing in an additional micro business into our town center that we operate for the last 2.5 years is going to hurt us. It's absolutely going to hurt our livelihood and our business. Currently, as I can count, currently there's 10 retails in Moreno Valley, and there's additional 7 in the works right now. We currently have 2 operating in our center right now, Sipcoy and Angel Organics, which is here also. We work together very well, but let there be no mistake, we just trade dollars back and forth. We're not bringing more business into our center. We're just, my customer goes to him one day, his customer comes back to me one day. So no one's making any more money. The revenue that's generated by the city or by us to the city off of gross sales, it's not going up. We're just diluting it amongst ourselves. So when you guys look at bringing in another micro business, yeah, you're going to get your $78,000 in an annual business fee, but you're not going to get another 8% off $500,000 in gross sales. It's just not going to happen. What this is going to cause is a race to the bottom. You're going to see everybody in that center dropping their prices,
And you guys are just going to get to the point where you're trading this new guy that you're going to let come in and operate in our town center for someone that's been an upstanding business owner that has been contributing more than $600,000 a year to you guys to help run our city. $600,000, whether or not we make a dime, which by the way, right now, the last year or so, sales are declining and you guys can see it because you guys see everyone's financials, but we're off 30% year over year. Our retail is barely skimming by, keeping the doors open. We have a huge overhead. Our overhead is $35,000 just for our mortgage. We have $60,000 in our employees, plus payroll taxes, plus insurance. It just goes on and on and on. So we're to the point right now where cultivation is carrying our load. In any other business, they would look at that and go, that's a lost leader. We're going to dump those guys. We're going to shut down retail and just keep this one that's I'm going to be respectful to the time, but I want you to take that into consideration, please.
Thank you.
Next, we have Craig McCoy.
Thank you all for the time. I want to let everyone know we appreciate the work that these guys have done and staff. I know firsthand how difficult it is just going through this process a couple of years ago. Staff is very diligent to make sure that the applicant does everything they're supposed to do. And as you stated earlier, this is a round peg in a round hole. Staff has taken into account everything they're supposed to do, and they've done it. What they don't take into account is how it affects other businesses in that center. It's not your guys' job to do that either. You guys are there to approve what staff recommends, and I can appreciate that. But again, like he was stating earlier, is what's not taken into account is the fact that when you open up the same business in the same center, now that's 4 in the same center, you're going to cripple the other businesses in that center. I don't know how else to say it. Is it approvable? Absolutely. Should you? Absolutely not. Other than that, that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Derek Sipkoy.
Hello, and thanks for having us back. It's been a few years since we got to stand in front of you. Currently, at the time, we have over 30 employees that are in the age demographic of under 40. We're providing jobs to 30 locals in our community. We've had no issues as far as staff with real lawsuits, with any real HR issues. We've got a well-oiled machine there, and people love coming to work. Our establishment is a culture. We have no malintent on Empire Gardens. If they are or aren't a neighbor, we would just prefer that, like any of the other centers in Moreno Valley, there isn't 2 competing big box stores in the same complex. I have never seen where there is a Sprouts Market next to a Trader Joe's, a Vons next to an Albertsons. It makes it extremely hard for business, like my partners have said. I would just hope that you would take that into consideration, note how many people we provide jobs for, and have the thought process of maybe allowing them to open up business somewhere else so that we can stay in business. It will affect us detrimentally. And it's not just so much a money thing. You guys make more than we do, and we work very hard as farmers and put in a lot of hours and really don't make as great of money as I thought signing up for this. Something that is very scary and very, very hurtful is to think of how many employees we have, and again, the passion and the love that they have for their job. And if we have to let some of them go, they're young, they're starting families. And again, this is their backyard. So what a shame to take that away from them. So I just hope that you guys would consider that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jonathan Zakanas.
Hello. I want to keep this short and sweet, but basically I wanted to touch on that. We're Angel Organics. They're competitors. We're not on the scale of them. We're just retail. But he said it best. We share customers. Since we've been open, we've taken from them. They take from us. We go back and forth. That's just the reality. We pay you guys $80,000 a year. you take 8.7% tax monthly. To be honest, we're barely breaking even. Now to add another competitor of this caliber is just going to hurt us. My logic with that as well is no other city charges this much money, 80,000 a year to operate. Nagar, I believe he created the Paris ordinance. I don't believe it's nearly as much as ours. Costa Mesa is 25,000, but to add another competitor on top of what you're charging is just outlandish and ridiculous. So hopefully, you guys take that in consideration and you guys, decide what you guys decide. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Michelle Irving.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Irvin. This is my first time coming to the planning committee, and I was considering, I wanted to join the committee. I'm a new homeowner, and I know that, and I just want to commend all you all on doing such a tremendous job, because what would Moreno Valley represent if you guys did not stay committed to what you put into your planning? So I just want to say that is my first time, and I'm very, very happy that I did stay. And I just wanted to add, we do live in a very competitive world. I know Chick-fil-A did not want Raising Cane's to come, because you see a lot of more traffic, but then it also creates more jobs. So I feel like if there's more jobs to help more people that's in the community, then, hey, we just have to kind of go with the flow when you are living in a competitive world. And I just seen that you guys have made so many great decisions. And I'm just here as a bystander and homeowner, just bought my home in Moreno Valley and looking to do great work with working with the youth. And I just love just this meeting. And that's all I really wanted to say.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers
No, sir.
that have a speaker slip turned in? You'd have to fill out. I don't have any problem with it. Fill out a slip. Let's make it happen. Put your name on it. Let's. Hang on just 1 second, please.
Andrew?
Yeah, I just want to touch up on what she said. Basically, Raising Cane's and Chick-fil-A are not in the same plaza, so you can't really. Yeah, pretty much that's all I gotta say.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other public speakers? Bada bing, bada boom.
No.
Okay. So at this time, let's see, would the applicant like to provide any additional information?
Yes, Chairman, I'll be brief. I feel for the speakers here, Sipcoy, Angel Organics. Our whole industry is going through very tough times. So we're empathetic towards their sentiment. I mean, they mentioned they're paying high taxes to the city, and we feel them. I mean, we were over $1 million into the city ourselves. So it seems like we're singing some of the same song here. So I want to give that part of my compassion to them this holiday season. But I also want to recognize that the city council set the number of licenses that they wanted in the city of Moreno Valley. And the city council, and I'm guessing staff and other folks that aren't us, set where you put them. And so we're just going by the allotment that was decided by those that make decisions around here, and we're filling out the right paperwork, and basically it's back to the round peg and the round hole theory. We're in the allotment of the amount of licenses. I think our paperwork's in order. We've proven ourselves as an entity that follows the rules and does good business. And while I feel for these folks, I got to tell you, America is about competition. That's the free market. Some people like the McDonald's, some people like the Jack in the Box, other people like the In-N-Out. And I think it's not necessarily fair to anyone to ask councils like yourself or commissions like yourself to choose winners and losers. That just doesn't seem fair. I think a race should determine a winner or a loser in Moreno Valley or in the United States of America. So with that, I'd request or hope or pray that the commission approve staff's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if there aren't any more public testimony, I'd like to close the public testimony portion and move into deliberations.
Okay, I'll go first. He's absolutely right. The applicant is absolutely right. The city set the standards. They abide by the standards. Sims and I have said they've, Sunnymead Boulevard was our big pet peeve. They kept putting too many there, and it is the entrance of the city. But if it's zoned for it and they follow all the rules, I mean, it is anything in today's world is competitive. So hopefully some of the people, they've already got another establishment here, and I'm sure once the people that have been going and patronizing Empire on that side will also go over to your guys' shopping center. I'm sure they will, because they're probably coming from one end of the city to go to that one. And if they like Empire, they're going to end up buying over here, and maybe they'll bring other people in, and you guys will get some of that too. You just never know. But the thing is that if it's zoned for it and it's just competition, like they say, and hopefully, some of them, that's just the way it is. And we're up here to do a job, and we can't see why not to approve something when they've done everything that the city has asked. So I'm going to vote to approve it.
All right, I'll go. First, Miss Michelle, congratulations on your home. Okay, it's a great accomplishment. Thank you for choosing Moreno Valley for buying your first home. Angel Organics, Sipkoi, thank you for coming, sharing your concerns and your points of views. It does mean a lot to us to have people here and voice their concerns to us. For everyone here, if you guys didn't know, I'm one of the biggest sticklers for logos and signs. This past year, I've only been on for 10 months, and I had signage removed from 2 dispensaries already. And Sean gets to deal with me on that. So with Mr. Nice Guy, they were doing their opening on that day as I drove by, and I saw them putting cannabis or dispensary. So if you notice there's blue that's blotched out, that's because I got off the freeway. I went, took pictures, sent it. Everyone, Manny was able to get someone out there, and they covered it up. The one off of Paris, right by the McDonald's Jack in the Box, they had cannabis all over it. I made a call. Within a couple days, it was taken down. So I'd encourage staff to look at the palm trees on the current signage, because that's palm trees, but I would be very. I don't think they're palm trees. With that, it's a hard, and I feel for the businesses. It's hard to make this decision, to say this, because I understand it's not just increasing jobs, because if revenue's lost, you got to decrease jobs, and those are going to go somewhere else. So it's not going to increase jobs necessarily. It could just, as they're doing, just spread them across, to another building. And that's tough, because I'm sure that employees who are laid off at one aren't necessarily, top of the list at another one, so they can't just fall into it. But we're not here to make that decision or assumption just based off of paperwork, based off of zoning. It fits. It is an appealable action. So I'd encourage others, if they don't like it, to exercise that right.
Mr. Baker?
You know, this is a free enterprise question here, and it's an open market, and I can kind of feel for the other two part. I've been in business too, and it's competition's not easy, but it's a reality, and this is a free market, and I don't see how we can keep people from not opening a new business when they're willing to, especially when they've got an existing business in Moreno Valley and they want to add another one. I think and they've proved themselves. So I would like to approve it. I'm all for
it. I'll say, I want to reiterate my commissioner's sentiments, Chen. Want to thank Angel Organics and Sipcoy for coming out. I too feel for I actually asked the question for even Empire Gardens to want to put a location there, but I go back and think that this area was designed for that. So unfortunately, when Angel Organics and Sipcoy came in front of this planning commission, city council to get approval, there was always a chance that next door, a company like Empire was going to build there. So there was always that knowing. It's the same thing with what we tell some residents that are upset about apartment buildings being next door. That was zoned for that. Your business, that was always zoned for that. So there was always a chance that there's going to be another industry, a micro business right next door that could provide 10,000 square feet and be in that area. So I do feel for Angel Organics, Sipcoy. Unfortunately, I think we're in the same situation where Empire Gardens has proven them track record. I too am pretty adamant about some of the signage. I have a 12-year-old son. I educate him. He understands. I told him at 21, you can do whatever you want. Until then, but I do prefer that some of the signage be tamed down in the city. I have seen some of it get out of hand, and I've been to other cities where it is out of hand, and it's just very, very, looks very tacky. It looks very unprofessional, and it looks, So on that, I think I'm going to vote for this as well.
I remember when we first started going down the road of approving these. What was it, 40 something? 40 plus, I believe it was. And I was really concerned about the 2400 block of Sunnymead, because quite a few of them were going in the 2400 block of Sunnymead. And after my inquiries and study there, realized that something called a green zone. I said, okay, that'll work. So that tells me that this probably will not be the last one to go in that block. There's probably going to be more. With 40 some odd, I don't think we've even scratched most of the surface yet. I'm not asking. I'm just saying we got quite a few more to improve. And that particular complex seems to be whoever runs that complex, they're saying, hey, bring them in here. And they're bringing them in there. And I know that they have to get that approval first with that owner before not us, that owner of that complex has to do that. And so that sounds like a discussion that might go on with that owner of that complex. And, gosh, I remember back I'm not going to talk about how old I was when I used to use the payphone, and now I don't get to use the payphone no more because cell phones are coming. I don't even use my home phone anymore because I have a cell phone. It just, things change. And I remember when I got the number of how many of these were going to prove, I knew right then and there it was going to be survival of the fittest, just flat out. With that many approved in one city, and we're only 56 square miles long, or it's going to be straight competition. That's all it is to it. As long as they dot their i's and cross their t's and follow the law. Far be it for me to say can't do it. So I'm okay with it.
We've already
Yeah.
hashed and rehashed, and we have instead of Cannery Row, we have Cannabis Row and Sunnyview Boulevard, and I mean right in the shopping center, just on the other side of the wall. We just approved another one, so yeah, I personally, whoever came up with the amount that went to council, the saturation, the study that says that a city of 200,000 can support 43 cannabis operations. I don't know how that happened, but anyhow, that's another day for another story. But going back to the odor thing, if the city fails, from a public nuisance standpoint, there is remedy to go to. You can file. Area people can file complaints with Air Quality Management District. You get enough public nuisance, you get into an abatement situation with AQMD, you'll wish you'd walked out of bed of coals. So that they could be a partner if the city ever didn't enforce.
Just real quick, Chair, can you open public testimony real quick so I can ask staff one question?
Well, let's go with that. Reopen the public testimony.
Okay, just real quick, Sean, if you can, just for clarity for everyone, just give us the update on how many we do have left at this point. Because we don't have a lot left. I just want public to understand that we're at the end. We might have one or two left.
Carrying the one right now. Dr. Carry the one. Don't forget.
We have entitled in total 32 cannabis operations out of 43 that are available. And of those, ultimately where we stand today, there are 2 dispensaries, 1 testing facility, 4 cultivation, 2 micros, and 2 manufacturing left.
I believe that Ed Delgado, didn't he propose something on the cannabis?
I don't know if that has gone before the council. I know that there was a discussion on that. I don't
Right.
know if I'm not aware of a decision being made.
No, it
to
hasn't, but I
eliminate
believe
those
they're all in
other
unison.
licenses.
Yeah.
Well, my only 2 cents, and I'm only a planning commissioner and soon to be not one, but at the end of the day, I would say if I wasn't elected, I would make it perhaps to revisit the cannabis operation in this, and we can put zoning. You can't have this next to that. And it seems to me that there could be some kind of saturation. You wouldn't put a Total Wine and a Bevmo in the same shopping center. You wouldn't put, there's just, you wouldn't put 3 liquor stores all within, a walking distance. I totally get what these guys are saying, but the city has given this, but it's a saturation level. There seems like the city has the ability to set municipal code to determine you can't have them within a certain distance of each other, even if they fit the round hole and the round peg and all that stuff. So anyhow, but that's an elected thing.
Any other questions of staff? And I'd like to close the public testimony portion of this meeting, and let's continue on with deliberations if we have any more. If not, then I'd ask
Propose
for
a motion. I'll propose a motion. How's that? Good grief. I got it. It's coming around. I would make a recommendation, Planning Commission approve resolution number 2022-59.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Sims and a second by Commissioner Baker. And And the motion carries. Is there a staff wrap-up?
The action taken by the Planning Commission this evening is an appealable action. Any interested party that would like to file an appeal may do so within 10 days of this action. If an appeal is filed, it must be in writing and directed to the Community Development Director, stating the specific reasons for the appeal along with the appeal filing fee. If any appeal is received, it will be agendized for a public hearing before the City Council.
All right. The next item on the agenda is other commissioner business, and we have none at this time. The next item would be staff comments. Do we have any staff comments at this time?
So I definitely want to just start out by saying thank you to the commission. It's been a great year. We've gotten a lot of work done over the past year. So as staff, thank you. I also want to extend that same thanks to the team that supports, development overall here in Moreno Valley. We've got a great team overall here at the city that does project reviews, and the projects we bring before you have a lot of effort put into them before we come before you each night. And finally, just happy holidays.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is planning commissioner comments. Do we have any commissioner comments at this time?
Quick, staff, thank you so much. Just came on this year. You guys are all doing amazing. We've had, different people, turnover. Rachel, you do an amazing job since coming on. I couldn't do it without you guys. I really appreciate it. Like I said, 8 months, 10 months I've been on. And in that time, Sean's always answering my calls and answering questions and telling me to talk to the city attorney because he can't talk to me. And, making sure that we're doing and we're bringing great projects to the city. So I want to thank you guys for that. Just real quick, we had a couple swearing ins. Want to congratulate our new Mayor Cabrera, our new city council member, Shaylinda Bernard, and Mayor Pro Tem didn't run against anyone, so he lacked a lot of congratulations because he didn't, have to win a race, but congratulations to him as well. So happy holidays, everyone. Again, congratulations on your home.
And Merry Christmas to all.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and joy, something like that. I'd like to thank our deputy sheriff for being here, keeping us safe. It is great to see you here. Wish you were here at the last meeting. Absolutely. So thank you for being here. And to you too, to staff, absolutely. You guys are fantastic. I see the glazing eyes going across out there saying I have dinner to get to. One quick thing is I would like to see if we can establish a time limit for the applicant for entitlements, whether or not that be 3 or 2, maybe 5 minutes per.
That is at your discretion, Chair.
It is. So
Yes.
we can establish that prior to speaking, or is that something that we
You can establish that prior to them speaking, and if you feel you need to change it based off of the number of public comments or the item, you can make that shift as well. The same thing with the 3 minutes as well. You can shift that number as well for the public comment as you see fit.
Really?
Mhm. And you can establish an overall time limit for everything as well.
1 minute for everyone?
I would be careful going too short.
Okay. All right, because that would be interesting to see. All right. Any other commissioner comments? For me, I'd like to thank all of you as well. You guys are fantastic. And Merry Christmas to you. Happy New Year. If we don't see you guys again. And at this time, I'd like the Planning Commission meeting is adjourned at 9:03 p.m. to the next regular meeting of January 12th, 2023 at 6 p.m.